The story begins at a press conference. Reporters were demanding answers. They asked if it was true that he had once cleared an A-rank dungeon on his own. Rumors had spread that he defeated an S-rank hunter during the recent dungeon breach incident. Had he been hiding his true awakening level all this time? The protagonist looked at them silently, thinking that it was merely a coincidence he had made money as a hunter. It wasn't about the abilities everyone was talking about. He was only here thanks to a bit of luck and bluffing. A reporter shouted, hand outstretched, saying that with the emergence of new high-rank awakening zones, expectations for national security had increased. Given that, what were his plans going forward? The protagonist thought bluntly. He was a nobody right now. He didn't even understand what these reporters were talking about. He asked himself, what other plans? Would things have ended up like this if I had any plans? He wondered what would happen if they found out he was actually an F-rank hunter. The S-rank hunter he supposedly defeated might come after him. There was no way the top ranker he had entered the dungeon with would just let things go. They could probably curse him. This was turning into a full-blown disaster. During a live broadcast on a popular video hosting platform, the protagonist stated that regarding his next steps, he didn't want to answer that question. The comments exploded. Did he seriously just refuse to answer? How rude. And they noted his disdainful expression. Looks like this hunter has a tough personality. At that moment, the journalists shouted, does this mean you admit to manipulating your awakening rank? Do you have anything to say in your defense? They pressed him for a response. The protagonist, head bowed, thought that no matter what he said, tomorrow's headlines would be awful. If he didn't clarify the situation, he might not survive in the hunter world. The reporters approached the hunter, Kim Curio, with a dark tone. The protagonist muttered, calling them damn mammals. He had already said he wouldn't comment. Further, they stared at him, stunned. Then someone shouted, what do you mean by mammals? Are you an S-rank? Please explain. To the protagonist, it didn't matter if they saw him as a powerful being hiding his true power or as a useless hunter. Either way, he wouldn't last long on this rotting planet. With flashes from the cameras blinding his face, he wondered, at what point did things go wrong? It all started with his resignation. First, he needed to clarify one thing. In truth, he was not a resident of this planet. His home was Alpha Ori, a planet with a highly developed magical civilization. He had once held the role of a high mage, but at some point, a thought had crossed his mind. He wanted to quit his job. It was considered a public position. So, despite all the hard work, the pay was never generous. The working calendar had no vacations or days off, minus 365 days a year. Since the advancement of technology had eliminated the need for food or sleep, overtime had become the norm. He couldn't even remember the last time he had left work on time. But thinking about it that way, the only real issue was how to quit. The MC had been entrusted with a significant role, one that couldn't simply be abandoned. High-ranking beings like him were heavily restricted from escaping their duties. For example, if he tried to use teleportation magic, his brain would be electrocuted. Even if he somehow managed to flee, it was impossible to hide from the rulers of the planet. Then a thought struck him. Why not just eliminate them? But that too was impossible. He couldn't harm members of his own race, not even himself. Suicide wasn't an option. However, during yet another grueling brainstorming session, an idea emerged. Magic only restricts the body, but not the soul, right? Soul manipulation technology hadn't been invented yet, so the soul could, theoretically, escape. That was perfect. He lived with this idea for years. After countless trials and errors, a new and unique magic was born. Soul manipulation. With this magic, the protagonist would be able to separate his soul and settle on a distant planet where no one could pursue him. When he finally used the spell, he thought, it's a success. I really did it. I'm a genius. He bid farewell to his damned job and wished those fools luck managing the planet without him. And so, the first soul transmigration in history occurred. Sometime later, he opened his eyes and looked at his hand. Surprised, the protagonist thought, what is this? It looks like an elongated protein mass. Luck is on his side. It seems that the host's soul has recently left this body. In any case, his plan worked. The protagonist thought with chagrin that even reincarnation was a simple task for him. MC tested his vocal cords and thought that imitating theological language felt natural. He also did not feel any problems with motor functions, however. Why so little according to the plan? He was supposed to inherit all the memory so that even those close to this creature would not particularly notice the substitution then. For what reason does he remember almost nothing about this body? His memories seemed to be torn to pieces. Suddenly he cried out in pain and thought, grabbing his neck with his hand. Where did the sudden pain in his stomach come from? The protagonist asked with difficulty. Did something go wrong? The protagonist saw fragments of the memory and thought, his face changing, that this body died of hunger. He set several conditions before using magic. The first condition is reincarnation into a creature with the greatest magical power on the planet. If this condition is met, then it is logical that the object should also have the highest. MC thought, clutching his stomach with his hands, that he had forgotten to take into account the state he would be in. He said, gritting his teeth, that he thought that thanks to the first condition, he would be able to avoid unnecessary problems. But this is too much. The protagonist thought that he felt like his stomach was filled with acid. Magic does not work immediately after reincarnation. The protagonist moved with difficulty and thought that it seemed like it would take time to adapt to the magical power of this planet. First he would fill his stomach with something to stop this pain. After MC went out and thought in surprise, is this really light? His home was almost completely covered in liquid starlight, did not reach the depths, so they spent all their time in the dark. However, this place is completely different. There is a bright, warm, light, and dry atmosphere, and a solid foothold under his feet. He winced in pain and said that now was not the time he needed food. Why couldn't he find anything edible afterwards? The main character shouted angrily, what's the matter? What kind of planet is this? The protagonist said that now it was clear why this body had died of hunger. There was inedible hard rock all around Athosrate. This body would die again. Suddenly the MC noticed an insect and asked if this was a living organism. This creature was quite small. Although now was not the time to choose, he grabbed the insect and said, with his mouth open, that he was grateful for the food. Suddenly, the protagonist noticed the boy and thought that this was a creature of his kind. It looked like a young specimen, right? What was in his mouth? The protagonist threw the insect away and said that it was obviously food. It looked very appetizing. The MC thought, his face changing, should he take it by force? After some time at the police poster, which asked to immediately report suspicious individuals. The boy turned around and thought that this was a very suspicious man. He decided to run away from him, and the protagonist shouted, what's the matter? He must wait for him. After some time in the alley of the city, the protagonist looked around and thought that he had escaped. What should he do now? The protagonist saw pots with plants and asked what they were. The MC said, looking at the pot with a decorative plant, that these are plants. It does not look edible, but it is still better than stealing someone else's food. He was about to try the plant, thinking that it is just a very tasty plant, but suddenly there was a crash. The protagonist looked away in confusion, and then the sound grew louder, and he thought, was that really a scream habitor? Check what happened there. The boy looked at it in fear and thought while his legs were shaking, is that really a monster? The monster rushed at him, and the schoolboy screamed and began to run away from this creature. After a Willethi monster's beak grabbed the schoolboy's backpack while it was entangled in the wires. The boy fell to the ground screaming, and then he dodged the monster's blow. At the last moment, the monster tried to catch up with him upon its beak. He screamed that he needed help. After a while, the protagonist thought, looking at the monster, is this a feathered creature? This monster is the size of a whole house. He met something like this just walking down the street. MC asked in confusion, what's wrong with their civilization? He thought that in fact had already encountered many illogical things. On the other hand, maybe it's even better this way, the protagonist thought, remembering the chicken mascot of some enterprise that he retained some part of his memory. And this huge creature is associated with food. It seems that he can even roughly feel the taste. This is wonderful. A wild animal is suitable prey. It will not be difficult for a great magician to kill this monster. Once he adapts to the local magic, conquering such a small planet will be a piece of cake, the protagonist thought, feeling the mana Is this really a magical power? The energy is incredibly powerful. It seems to permeate every cell of his body. This is definitely local magic, however, there is a problem. MC fell to the ground and said that this mana is much. He thought that for comparison, if the magic of his planet is considered a filled bucket, then the local concentration is a real swimming pool. The protagonist screamed, grabbing his head with his hand. How can such a place exist? He hit the jackpot. This is his dazzling future. With so much magic, nothing is impossible for him. The boy screamed that he is asking him for help. The protagonist thought, exhaling, how can he so carelessly ask someone for help if it was not him, the greatest magician of Alpha Wari? MC said that he will help him on one condition. He wants to get what he has in his hand. He asked in surprise, is he serious? The monster behind his back began to free itself from the wire trap. He screamed in fear that he agrees to give it to him. He must save him, the protagonist thought. Is it possible to turn your back on a predator? The protagonist said that Hessold stay behind his back. The protagonist thought that as the head of the first magic unit, responsible for the defense of the planet, he should be a Blado, separate bones from flesh in one move. Mick extended his hands, but to his surprise, nothing happened. He remarked that this was strange. It seems that his concentration is lacking due to the unfamiliar environment, right? That protagonist said, with a laugh, that he did not expect to encounter something like this at all. The protagonist thought that he would try explosive magic, however nothing happened after that. He tried water, magic shadow, summoning, and even curse magic, but nothing worked. MC asked in surprise, what was the matter? Why can't he use magic? After a while, the protagonist ran away from the monster in a panic and screamed that he needed help. Then on the road, he was almost hit by a car, and the driver shouted, calling him an idiot. Has he really gone crazy? Does he really want Toady? The protagonist thought that this creature would chase him as long as it saw him. He has to change his directions. Monster was furiously chasing him while he was running away in panic. Afterwards, the protagonist thought Thath had run out onto a wide road. Why was this creature chasing only him? The Mick thought, breathing heavily, that he had not eaten anything. He felt weak in his body. Things were bad for him. He had Tochim's direction again. Suddenly the monster jumped high, and the MC thought that this huge creature could also fly, was running away from the monster, and thought that at this rate he himself would be eaten suddenly. The protagonist felt a sharp pain in his leg, and thought, was there really any damage to this body? Afterwards, the protagonist lost this balance on a construction site. The monster rushed past him, hitting the building with its beak. There was a deafening roar, causing the MC to cover his ears with his hands. Afterwards, he dared to open his eyes and asked, looking at the monster's body, what just happened? Did this creature really crash into the wall? The protagonist thought for a moment and asked, does this bird really have no brains at all? The protagonist thought that he remembered that some birds dive at dangerous angles and crash. He wanted to ask the local scientists why these creatures are so stupid. The Mick noted while his stomach was growling that now was not the time. He thought, touching the monster with his hand, is this creature edible? It must be a local species. Then the amino acid structure must be suitable for eating. Sunwon, the hunter, asked in shock, how did this happen? She looked at him with an expression of utter surprise. Then one remembered how the boy screamed while the police officer was running next to him that they need to get there faster. Monster was chasing a man. They must hurry. She asked, was it last seen here? The police officer reported that it was. One declared that they should not approach. Then she thought it was a rookie killer, a bird monster that lived near the Sandgate. It was originally thought to be an monster that could be defeated with a normal gun. However, at some point, the rookie killer rating was raised to C rank because it was capable of reaching critical speed. One gritted her teeth and thought that hunters below C rank would not even have time to react to such an attack. She had to act quickly to avoid casualties. Then she thought that she couldn't believe her eyes. There was a person there. Wu Yan was dumbfounded. Was this possible? She wondered in surprise. Did he really do this alone? The police officer shouted at Wu Yan, what's wrong? The boy shouted at him that he had brought the police. He said that he was glad there were no casualties. He thanked him for his work. They received a message about the monster and immediately headed to Thessaly. They were lucky that there was a hunter nearby. The protagonist was puzzled. Was he really called a hunter? Whoa, are hunters He can't remember, the police officer said with a smile, that he was grateful to him for catching the monster. One was dumbfounded. Did he deal with the monster in such a short time? Did this guy really end up here? By accident, the rookie killer's habitat is a quicksand area, so it is easier to catch this creature from the outside than from the inside. It is enough to navigate the surroundings to catch it on a hard surface. However, this requires us that are able to follow the bird's movements. If you look closely, this creature was killed in exactly this way. This means that this hunter's rank is not lower than C rank. After a while, the protagonist said to the boy that Hesholt stand still. Mick asked, holding out his hand, did he remember their agreement? The boy reluctantly gave up his food afterwards. He thought, with a change in his expression, that this was simply amazing. He had evolved into a creature that did not need food for so long, so to taste something delicious again was incredible. One was dumbfounded. Did Hirali take food from a child? The boy said sadly that it was his fresh tangerine. She greeted him and said Thatch was from the Hunters Association. One shook his hand and remarked that it was commendable that he defeated the monster without a single scratch. The protagonist greeted her, she said, wiping her hand with a napkin, that his face wasn't familiar to her. Is he a free hunter? Can he show his license? She should submit a report to the association. The protagonist thought, what is a license? Although in any case he will try to somehow avoid it. Mick said that he apologized to her, but he did not bring one with him. Wu Yan crossed her arms and said that she understands, then she'll just look it up in the association database. What's his name? The protagonist looked away and thought that was a problem he hadn't remembered the name of this body, yet she looked at him, puzzled, and then shouted, does he really have a hunter's license? Did he at least take the awakening test? Did he really use his awakened skills on the street without even registering? That's illegal. The protagonist thought he didn't really understand what she was talking about, but he was in trouble. This time, Right MC said that he had registered, he just left the license at home. She needed to wait a bit. He would bring it now. The protagonist left, thinking that he would never come back here again. Some time later, at the protagonist's house, the protagonist was searching for documents and then said that he found this. His name was Kim Curio. That was his new name. However, he couldn't find the hunter's license anywhere. Didn't this body register? Mick looked at the cigarettes and asked, what is this? Why are they scattered around here? Curio picked up a pack of cigarettes and thought he remembered what it was. The owner of the body often smoked it. The protagonist angry that it was a curse. The previous owner of the body was a heavy smoker for magicians. This is an extremely destructive habit. They combine the internal energy that circulates in the body with the external energy they take in nature. Just a question, what organ is used for combining it? Is the respiratory system, or more precisely, the lungs. The protagonist threw the pack of cigarettes on the floor and shouted in anger that he couldn't use magic because of this idiot. How could he destroy his own lungs? MC thought that on Alpha Ori, where the vast majority of the population possessed magic, this was unthinkable. He expected that they might be primitive, but this kind simply amazed him. In a bad way, Curio exhaled heavily and thought that he should calm down. The protagonist said in frustration that heckled no longer changed the past. It was his own fault for only thinking about the amount of magic and not the state of his body. The protagonist thought that there must be a way to fix everything. After all, he even managed to escape from captivity, so he was not going to give up so quickly. He would spend the rest of his life in a new world for him and live happily. Sometime later at the police station, the police officer asked why he headed this. He was not a child anymore. MC apologized, bowing his head. Curio thought he underestimated the difficulty of life on Earth. He was arrested a few hours after arriving, shortly before Onth Street. The protagonist thought that the conversation had taken minutes, and his hunger had not weakened. The protagonist was shaking, and thought that he should learn many facts about the Earth. However, first, the problem of nutritional deficiency needed to be solved. MC thought, where is that smell coming from? After that, Curio read the sign of the establishment, and thought, what is pork soup? After a while, hot soup was placed on the protagonist. The protagonist thought it turns out that the food was very close. He was just torturing himself all this time, in vain. It's time to try it. MC thought, as he began to greedily eat the food in front of him, that this is wonderful, it shot, but delicious. Damn it, his mouth is burning, however, he can't stop, his hands are moving on their own. He has already fallen in love with the local food. Until then, everything was fine until he found himself at the police station. The police officer asked if their country had such serious problems. He ate his fill and ran away. Even though he looked like a young Curio said that he simply forgot to pay. The police officer remembered him and asked why the hunter was here then at the exit of the police station. He said that he shouldn't do that again. They would get away with a warning the first time. The protagonist bowed his head and said that he would definitely pay next time so he could go. The police officer noted that he should wait a little before that he had investigated and found out that he hadn't registered with the Hunter Association, so he had drastically awakened, right? He handed over a booklet and said that he advised him to visit the testing center. He didn't have to worry about money. It was free then. The police officer shouted goodbye, that he should definitely take the test. The protagonist looked at the booklet in confusion and thought, what kind of awakening is this? Is this some kind of concept that should be familiar to the population of Earth? MC said that the officer instructed him. So maybe Heshold try it. It's not far from here. After some time at the building of the Awakened Testing Center, Curio thought, looking at the building, so this is the testing center. It seems that the previous owner of the body has been here on. He seemed to have received an Frank ability rating. He remembered he is already an awakened one with an F rank after. Woo-yeon noticed that they met again. The protagonist turned around and greeted her. She asked what brought him to the association. Let him show his documents and Hunter license. The protagonist became nervous and thought that he deceived her last time. However, the memories returned just in time now, he is sure, MC said. Apologizing that last time, he said all sorts of nonsense out of panic. He does not have a license. Woo-yeon crossed her arms and noted that she was wondering why he did not return. Curio noted that he registered his awakening. He did not receive a license. Bess. The result was a complete disappointment. She asked what he meant. The protagonist stated that he was Anne Frank. One screamed in shock. Then how could he defeat the rookie killer? The protagonist pointed out that it was just a coincidence. The stupid bird crashed into the wall itself. She looked at him with a puzzled expression. Woo-yeon then thought, with a gloomy expression, that the monster could not adapt to the new environment and killed itself. Such kasashave happened before, however, when she first saw him, he seemed so relaxed, as if he had already killed 100 of such monsters. From the outside, he did not show any fear of the monster. Why was he trying to hide his rank? Usually such people are dangerous because they are involved in illegal activities. It is likely that this person is one of them. She remarked, with a smile, that it was really luck. The rookie killer is known for his low intelligence. The MC thought that from what he understood, people use facial expressions to express their emotions. He should learn this to appear friendlier to others. He can try it right now. Curio made a terrible face and said that it was true. He was very lucky, one thought, as she stared at him in shock. What was wrong with his face? This is too suspicious. She should leave for now. She mentioned that she had something to give Ish. Almost forgot about it. Can he remind her of his name? The protagonist introduced himself, and Woo-yeon asked him to take it, holding out her hand. The protagonist thought happily, did she really give him money as a greeting? There is no such generous culture in the entire universe. The MC asked why she was giving it. She said that he left a corpse, a rookie killer. She had to deal with it. This is his share for the capture. Curio thought dryly that the cost of the food had tried earlier was so this piece of paper is worth 6 bowls of soup. The protagonist remarked that he didn't think the creature was that expensive. Does this bird have valuable feathers? One said with her arms crossed. That it wasn't like that at all. The rookie killer's corpse doesn't carry much value. However, they were very liquido. Find a magic stone in that bird nowadays. C-rank stones sell 4 million. The protagonist asked in confusion, what million are we talking about? Then why did he only get? She said with her eyes closed that Heshold understand that damage was caused to the city during the capture. She had to deal with it on her own behalf. If the hunter involved hadn't escaped, they could have used legal immunity. The MC said guilty that he regretted it. Woo-yeon said that it was okay. She leaves and wishes him a good day. Afterwards, Curio squeezed the bill in his hand and thought, does that mean he missed out on $1,000,001 in his normal state? The monster would be no more dangerous. Thanon Insect, the protagonist, looked at the bill and thought about how much money. Just for one monster corpse, that's bowls of soup money is needed to survive, and he came to Earth in search of a happy life. It turns out that he must earn as much money as possible, therefore, it's time for him to become a hunter. The protagonist considered his future until lunch to be bleak. The owner of the body is a beggar, who must take out his savings for one bowl of soup. However, everything has changed now. MC knows that hunters earn decent money. Curio thought that this means he will feed himself with the best he can do. Magic. Although his magic power is not working now, where should he find monsters? The protagonist overheard a resident and thought, "What gate are you talking about?" The people were surprised and said that this was the first time they saw one in real life. Are the gates always this big? The gates are relocations where hunting takes place. They are divided into ranks depending on the density of the magical power. Along with this, the power of the monsters inside increases. The protagonist looked at the gate and thought that this was some kind of unusual mana sample, so monsters live there. He should check it out. MC and thought that in front of such a crowd of people, he would not be able to enter it. Curio thought, is there really another gate nearby? What is this? The protagonist followed the magical power and thought that he was getting closer to the source. After a while outside the city, the protagonist thought that this was another gate, after McTeardley said that he thought he would die before he could get up here. Curio thoughtfully asked, what they hung up here? People have a strange sense of aesthetics. The protagonist asked, approaching the gate, why decorate Thepplins with ribbons shortly before this? At the entrance of the gate, Yunang reported on the phone that they were already at the gate. The manager asked if there were any civilians there. He noted that there was no one there. The tape was also in place. He stated that these mutations would soon drive him crazy. He lost count of how many times the rank had changed this month. Yoon said that he didn't have to worry, they would immediately begin an investigation. He put his phone away and said to his allies that it was time for them to go inside. Yeonsung then said that the cava smelled terrible in the middle of summer. He looked at his device on his hand and noted that the magic density was at the level of a D-ranked dungeon. Cholin noted that they had already gotten used to it. When something happens, the gate rank jumps by 2 levels. They need to quickly deal with this and then go have a drink. Yunning asked, after looking around, should they slow down? They were going too fast. He asked why they should do that. He said with concern that they had already gone quite far, but there was no sign of monsters here, so they should be careful. Chilman patted his head and asked why I was so afraid. He was still young. Their team included Yunin himself and a rank hunter. What was the point of being afraid? At this moment, Yunin was scared when he saw a golem behind his ally.